Welcome to In the Black, the podcast that shines a light on resilience, transformation, and the power of reinvention. I'm Araceli, and each week my co-host Shannon and I sit down with incredible women who have faced some of life's hardest challenges, from personal setbacks to societal obstacles, and have emerged on the other side stronger, driven, and ready to make a difference.
On In the Black, we celebrate these stories of strength and success, diving deep into the journeys of women who turned pain into purpose, adversity into action, and now dedicate themselves to making the world a better place in their own way. They're here to inspire, share hard-earned wisdom, and remind us all, no matter how dark things may seem, life is cyclical and dawn is coming. So whether you're looking for inspiration, motivation, or just a reminder that change is always possible, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to In the Black.
Welcome. Today we have Amanda Lee. Amanda Lee is an author, educator, and advocate for domestic violence survivors. A survivor herself, she spent years navigating the effects of an abusive marriage before using her experience to help others. Her memoir, One of the Lucky Ones, chronicles her journey from abuse to freedom, while her fictional series follows a domestic violence detective. Through her writing, Amanda Lee, or A.E. Lee, strives to connect with those who feel alone, offering hope and strength by showing that healing is possible. She is passionate about giving others the courage to believe that they too can be one of the lucky ones. Welcome, Amanda, to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you on our podcast. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are right now, and yeah.
As you said, I am an author as well as a domestic violence survivor. And I try to use my writing to connect with readers, not just for like an entertainment value, but also when I was in the thick of it, I felt very alone. And if I can reach someone with my writing and help them to not feel so alone, then I've done my job. And that's really what spurs me on. I have come a long way since the time of my abusive marriage. I got out of the marriage. There was an event that I talk about in my memoir that kind of headed it on, and unfortunately, police had to be involved. But really, I've learned to look at it not as a nightmare event, but more as a blessing. It opened my door, and my life completely has changed. I'm 6 years from when that happened, and my ex-husband and I are actually very good co-parents, which no one can believe that actually happened. And I'm remarried, and I have a whole host of children now. I have 7 kids, and I apologize if one of them comes running in, even though I told them and maybe threaten their lives that they are not allowed to interrupt me. I'm sure someone will need something. Um, and my life, it's completely different than what it was, and I am one of the lucky ones.
Yeah. 7 kids, all yours, or did you?
Yeah. No. I have 2. My husband has 5, so we have a blended family from
Okay.
age 20 to 9.
Okay.
Wow.
So your memoir is titled One of the Lucky Ones. That's a powerful phrase. Can you take us back to the moment when you realized you were one of the lucky ones and what that meant to you?
Yeah. So, when I think back to my marriage and the abuse that I suffered, it's almost a surreal feeling. It feels like it's almost like it didn't really happen. When I was in the thick of it, and I've heard this from other abuse survivors, you kind of, it's almost like you go to sleep. You're going through the motions. You can't comprehend what's actually happening to you. And when August 3rd, 2019 at 8:59 p.m. happened. I was shell shocked. My ex-husband threatened to burn our house down with me and our children in it during an abusive episode. And I took my babies and I ran for our lives and called the police. And it wasn't a little till after when I kind of woke up and I realized just how truly lucky I was. because if that event hadn't happened, I don't know how I would have gotten out. I knew I was getting to the point where I needed to get out. I could see the effects it was happening on my son in particular, who was 5, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how to safely get out. I live in Virginia and it's a unification state, and I was terrified of my ex having any type of custody at that moment, because how could I keep my kids safe if I wasn't there with them? And that event happened and it opened my door, and while I was navigating the court system and everything, I was again like in that numb feeling. And it wasn't till probably a couple months later I remember sitting on my couch and just crying, and it was relief. It wasn't sadness, it was relief. It was, I got out. I'm okay. I'm going to be better because of this.
Yeah, that moment is so powerful when you realize that you are doing the right thing. I remember
Mhm.
being in the shelter and thinking, I can't do this. I can't be a single mom. I can't take care of my kids by myself.
Mhm.
And then that moment when you're like, okay, I am doing this and life is going to be better for us. Like, I don't have to put my kids through that.
Mhm.
And so that's really awesome that you did get out and that you are one of the lucky ones. I actually downloaded your book on Audible and have been listening to it. I'm not all the way through it yet, but I started listening to it, and I love your storytelling, and I love the power of your story because I think it has the potential to impact a whole lot of lives, and I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Missouri is also a two-parent state that believes in reunification and complete family, or whatever they call it.
Mhm.
And I do see that a lot, where even in our court case, like my divorce was finalized before his criminal trial. And so that happens quite frequently. And that's one of the things that surviving domestic violence in Southwest Missouri, one of our previous guests, that's one of the things that she's trying to fight right now. So,
Yeah, I have to, in Virginia, so it is a long process to get divorced. You have to be separated for a year and then you can file. So even though there was a court case and criminal charges pending, I still had to wait a full year um, to when we could start the paperwork.
that's wild. I've never heard of that. You
Yeah,
can
and
start the
that
paperwork immediately here. So that's
yeah, I mean,
crazy.
I was able, because there was circumstances, I was able to file it, but it literally just sat in the system for a year. They weren't going to
Wow.
do anything with it for a year. Um, and then COVID hit, so it took forever, but
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad that you made it out. When you were going through that, when you very first got out, can you kind of walk through some of the emotions and some of the things that you were feeling in that moment? Um, and just kind of talk about like where you were at and what your thought process was like, because that moment is so vital where you're going from victim to survivor and then hopefully to victor eventually, but that moment from victim to survivor is imperative to get anywhere. Can you talk about kind of that process for yourself?
yeah, well, like I said, there was a violent incident that forced my hand, that I had to grab my kids. We ran out of the house. I called the police. The police showed up, and I think at first I was just numb. I didn't know what was happening. I barely slept that night, and I remember it was like 7 a.m. I'm like, okay, I've got to call my parents. I can't do this by myself. And I started making the calls. I called my sister, I called my parents, and they swooped down, and thank God they did. And I think at first it was just numb. And I think it was more probably just a coping mechanism, because overnight I was a single parent. And because of the abuse, I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could emotionally do it. I didn't think I could financially do it. And I am very fortunate because I know not a lot of people do have this, but I have a very good support system who were willing to provide not just emotional support, but financial support as well. And I remember feeling like the day after, and my parents were there, my best friend was there changing locks for me. And I remember almost feeling happy and then feeling guilty about that because this traumatic event just happened. It's going to impact the lives of myself and my children for the rest of our lives. But I was somewhat happy because I was like, I don't have to do this again. I don't ever have to be married to him again. I'm getting out. This is it. Like, I'm getting out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I will figure out how to single parent. I will figure out how to work full time and pay my bill. I will figure it out. And I think it was like, it almost like switched then. Then it was like, I am no longer a victim. He does not have the ability to hurt me anymore.
That's beautiful. I find that that is a very common theme, is because it's all mental before it's ever physical, right? And
Mhm.
so a very common theme is, you can't do anything without me. You're nothing without me. There's no way you can take care of the kids on your own. You won't make it on your own.
Yeah.
Those type of things. Can you kind of talk about like combating that and what that process looks like? Because it's hard to get those thoughts out of your head once you've heard it so many times on repeat. And it is a process. Can you kind of talk about like how you switched your mindset and what that part of it looked like? Because it is something that takes time and effort.
Yeah. I mean, I, for years, had heard that nobody would ever want me besides him. Even if I tried to divorce him, the court would find me unfit and he would take the kids. And I couldn't financially do this without him. And, that summer of 2019, before everything happened, um, I rem- it was when the term gaslighting first came big, and then everybody was saying everyone was gaslighting everyone. But I was listening to the radio going to work, and I had to pull over because I started to cry because I realized that's what was happening to me. And it kind of switched, like, oh my God, all these things are happening to me. And I started to see myself in the mirror for who I was. It wasn't just the person that my ex was telling me, who, no one is ever going to want to be around. And I'm like, I'm not that bad. I'm highly educated, and I think he might be wrong. And if he's wrong about that, then I think he might be wrong about other things too. And we were set to go on a family cruise that weekend that everything happened. And I remember thinking, I need to talk to my sister because I need help getting out. Because, like I said, the one real fear that I had was that he would get more custody of the kids than I felt was safe. And I didn't have any evidence other than me just saying I didn't feel it was safe. And I've watched enough Law and Order to know that's not gonna hold up. It wasn't until I was out of it that I realized, and it sounds so stupid because, like I said, I am a highly educated woman. Like, I can't believe sometimes that I didn't realize what was happening to me when it was happening. I realized that I was paying for everything. Like, I already was supporting our lifestyle. I literally was paying for every single thing that was happening in our lives. And he wasn't. He like squandered money away, I found out later during our divorce proceedings. So it was the self-esteem started to come back a little bit, but it wasn't until I was completely out of it and started to look back and be like, well, wait, if I'm paying for all of these things, what's he paying for? If I'm doing all of this for the kids, what was he doing? And it turns out I was already a single parent. I knew what I was doing because I had been doing it for years. I just now didn't have this person who I was walking on eggshells around.
It's so powerful that you were able to come, I guess, reflect on that and then come to that understanding of what was actually happening behind the scenes. So emotionally, the aftermath. So for many survivors, the aftermath can be as difficult as the abuse itself, What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the healing process, and how did you begin to reclaim your sense of self?
Well, I thought the worst of it was over that night. I thought that was it. Like, I'm good. I'm good. And it wasn't. I found out very quickly that some of the, I don't know, scary, I don't know if that's the right word, but um, the times that victims are most in danger are when they immediately leave their abuser. I was not prepared for that. I had my ex, he had convinced our former neighbors to give him access to one of their cameras, and they pointed it at my driveway so he could keep tabs on me. He would do all sorts of stalking stuff to make me feel so unsafe in not just my house but my own skin. And as a mother with two small kids, my kids were 5 and 3 at the time, my focus was on them. It was, I need to get them in therapy. I need to get them okay. I need to have them have as normal life as possible. And my focus was just them, them, them. Meanwhile, like, all these other things are happening. Besides the fact I'm going through a divorce and I've got to go to a criminal trial because the state's charging him with assault. It wasn't me. I've got to go through protective order hearings. And now I've got this guy stalking me, but the court is telling me I can't prove it's stalking, even though I'm like, I have all of this. How can you tell me it's not stalking? And it was building up, and it was building up, and it was building up. But as a mom, I wasn't taking care of myself. My focus was on my children until one day I broke. I just cried and had a panic attack and couldn't stop, and was like on my bathroom floor in the middle of the night. And I just remember thinking, like, okay, so now it needs to be about me. Now I need to figure out what I need to do to help myself, because I can't live like this. And I did everything. Anything anyone suggested, I did. There's a type of massage, I forget what it's called, but it's for PTSD, mainly soldiers. I did it. Someone suggested going to an energy healer, did it. I saw a therapist, I saw a psychic, I did everything. And honestly, my whole bag of tricks is what helped put me back together. It's what helped me become me again.
Yeah. I love what you said about doing anything and everything to put yourself back together. I lived in the shelter for 13 months after I left my husband, and that was one thing that I determined very early was whatever they recommended, I was going to do because I deserved to heal.
Yeah.
And I love that you say that, because a lot of times I think that is the portion of the work that causes women to get back into the same type of situations. Because if you don't take that time to heal, then that's where you get back,
Yeah.
into those same patterns.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about your bag of tricks?
Yes, it's going to sound crazy to some people, but that's okay. So everything was first happening, I just wanted reassurance that I was going to be okay. So my best friend since I was in 7th grade, who is this is not her thing, but I remember she called me and she's like, "So I just saw a psychic," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, tell me more." And she was blown away by this person. I'm like, I need to talk to her. I need to talk to her. And I did. She was my first phone call because I just wanted someone, even if she was full of it, I didn't care at that moment. I wanted someone outside of my immediate circle who I had deemed had no idea what was going on, to tell me I was going to be okay. And she did. She reassured me nonstop. And I mean, I still talk to her. And if it wasn't for her, I probably would not have embarked on this writing journey. She had stressed over and over again, I needed a creative outlet. I need a creative outlet to try and help heal. It's part of the healing process. And, COVID hit and I had small kids and we watched a lot of High School Musical and Disney Channel, and there was only so much I could do. So I taught myself how to knit. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to knit scarves for everyone. That's going to be," and that only lasted a little bit. And then she suggested, like, why don't you just write? And I'm like, I do not want to be a writer. I am not a writer. That is not my thing. Like, what, have you lost your mind? And then one night I couldn't sleep and I started thinking about, like, well, what would I name this chapter? Oh, well, I could do this. And I woke up the next morning and it just kind of poured out of me. And it was so therapeutic. And I was never going to do anything with it. But little by little, I got an editor and I started to think, well, maybe this would resonate with someone else. I've got to publish this. So having a creative output, she suggested an energy healer, which I had no idea what that was. And it was one of the best things I did. I can't even describe it. She like uses her energy to heal your energy. And I only went like 3 or 4 times, but it was amazing. It really was amazing for helping me personally to heal some of those deep wounds. And I also turned to a trauma specialized therapist. And I mean, without all of those things, I started meditating, which I'm from Philadelphia. My people do not meditate. This is not something that we do. We don't do this, but I meditate every night. I'm an avid I do yoga 4 times a week. I did everything anyone suggested and still do.
So part of NLP, neuro linguistic programming, is meditation, because it actually rewires how your brain neurons connect.
Mhm.
And so I think that's awesome that you're a meditator, even though you're not with the people that meditate.
Yeah, my sister's like, you're doing what? I'm like, listen, it works.
It does. Proven.
It does.
So, writing a memoir like yours requires revisiting trauma. What made you feel safe or brave enough to share your story publicly? I know you started writing it as therapeutic. Was there a moment that sparked the decision to write it all down and share it with the world?
Yeah, I didn't tell anybody I was writing a book. I just did it for myself and then I was finished and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I feel lighter." And I maybe after a glass of wine or two told my neighbor that I had done this. She's like, "Oh my god, you have to let me read it." And I'm like, "Okay." And I let her read it, the completely unedited version. And her first thought was, you need an editor. And the second was, you have to publish this. Like, what if it helps one person? Like, you have to publish this. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'll clean it up. I'll get an editor. And I got an editor. And the editor, she was like, you have to publish this. Like, this, you have to publish this. And I started thinking, like, I don't think I'm going to be a New York Times bestseller off of this, but maybe they're right. Maybe if I can help one person, then it's worth it. I can help that one person feel not so alone. I'm very fortunate. I have a great support system, but my support system wasn't with me at 2 a.m. when I was panicking, going, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? Or panicking, what if he's right? What if no one is ever going to love me again? And I just thought if I could help one person, then it's worth it. And I have. I've gotten feedback from several women who have said, I recognized myself in you. And that's what gave me the courage to leave.
That's incredible. I remember the first time that I told my story and had someone tell me that. And it's so beautiful to be on the other side of things and to know, hey, I'm okay. And now I can reach back and help people who are where I was.
Yeah. And it's reassuring to them too. Like she was a friend when I was married to my ex-husband, and like I would say more acquaintance, but she read my book while she was still married, and they were married for over 30 years. And she was like, I recognized myself in you. Like we're getting a divorce. And not just recognizing herself in me, but also seeing where I am now. Like I'm okay. I'm much better. Like I'm thriving now. She was like, that's what I want. I don't want to be doing this anymore.
So, your fictional series focuses on a domestic violence detective. a unique and empowering lens. How did you use fiction to explore themes you couldn't in your memoir? And what do you hope readers take away from these stories?
The female detective is actually inspired by the female detective that helped me. Um, and I thought I had first been working with a male detective, and then he retired and she took over while I was going through one of the protective order things. And I just thought, how amazing is it that there's a female domestic violence detective? Like this, everybody, every police station should have a female domestic violence detective. I felt so comfortable talking to her, and it was so inspirational to just have her on my side. Because I don't know where I would be without the police showing up that night, but there were times afterwards that I didn't feel as supported. So after feeling not as supported, and then having her on my side was very powerful for me and very inspirational. And I think really, like, the fiction series, it's, you write what you know. And the, you know, unfortunate part is this is what I know. And I hope that not just that people are like, oh, this is a good story. It again will resonate with some people that, like, oh, this kind of sounds familiar, and help them get out of a situation that they might feel stuck in.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that you wrote a fiction series as well. And I think that a lot of times fiction has a way of opening up doors that nonfiction doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really cool that you have chosen to focus on that, because I would never have thought about writing a fictional thing about domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really, really neat. What kind of, I mean, obviously, when you started writing, it was therapeutic, and then did you just have to keep writing? I'm curious on my own personal level, because I always tell people, like, painting's what I do, but
Mm-hmm.
writing's who I am, because I can't stop. It's like breathing for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious if it became kind of almost an addiction for you.
It 100% is. My husband, like, saw me finally through, like, the writing process this winter. I'm like, get ready, because, like, it's not pretty. I it it's I love it. I'm trying to remember. A famous author was like, I hate writing. It's the worst, but I can't get enough of it. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, let me finish this chapter. Oh, I just one more chapter. And it is. It's addictive. And I know it's coming. So it's like when I have a story and I've had it outlined and I know what I'm going to write, it's like, okay, so I hope we don't have anything going on for a little bit, because this is where I'm going to be. And like you said, it's almost like breathing. Once I'm in it, I'm like in it to win it. And this is all I'm focused on. Even when I'm talking to you about something else, it's all I'm thinking about. It's, oh, I should change this. I should do this.
That is awesome. So, in your work as an advocate, what patterns do you see in the stories of other survivors? And what tools or truths do you most often share with them to help them find their own way to freedom?
I see a lot of people, at first thinking they can't do it on their own, because they've been so beaten down. And I would say probably 90% of the time, an, at least an attempt to go back, because they don't think they can survive without this other person. And the one piece of advice I always share is, no one ever regrets leaving an abusive relationship. No one ever is going to look back and be like, oh, I should have tried harder, I should have done this. It's no, once you are fully out and you look back on what happened to you, it's, I can't believe I stayed that long. No one ever regrets leaving. So if you know at the end of the day, if you can feel it, that you're not going to regret leaving, then we've got to figure out how we can survive.
100%. Fear and shame are two of the biggest barriers survivors face. What helped you overcome those emotions, and what advice do you give to those who feel stuck or silenced by them?
Yeah, I mean, shame was a big one. Like I said, like, I'm a highly educated woman. I don't take crap from anyone, and yet I was in an almost 10-year abusive relationship. So It's kind of one of those things. The more you tell the story, the more you realize that the shame is not on you, it's on the person who did this to you. And it takes a minute to start training your thought process, but the validation is when you are telling someone what happened, the the shock of, oh my god, why did you stay so long? That's not it. Oh my god, I can't believe that happened to you. I'm so sorry. Oh my, I can't believe you survived that. And it's the recognition again that the shame is not on you, it's on the person that did this to you.
That is so good.
I would like you to repeat that for our listeners, because I think that is something that so many people struggle with, is
Mhm.
feeling like, because I was educated, I had a social work degree and I
Yeah.
spent 8 years married to a monster.
Yeah.
And so, like, I need you to repeat that, please.
Realizing that the shame of being in an abusive relationship is not on you, it's on the person that did this to you. It's not, when you tell your story over and over again, it gets easier to see. It helps retrain your brain that the shame part isn't on you, because it's never going to be, I can't believe you stayed that long, or I can't believe you didn't do more to not make him or her angry. It's, oh my God, I can't believe you survived that. I can't believe he did that to you. I got a couple, well, if I would have known that was going to happen, he would have never survived, you know? So the shame is on the person that is doing it. Anybody who thinks that abusing their partner is the right way to have a healthy relationship is just, I mean, honestly, is the worst person alive, because you don't treat people that you love in an abusive way.
Absolutely. I that I think that was the whole podcast right there, because that is something that
Thank you.
so many people struggle with.
Yeah.
And that was something that it took me a long time to get over, because I was like, I have a degree in this. I should have known. I should have seen all of these red flags. I've been around
Yeah.
this. And it was so hard to stop blaming myself and be like, oh, he was the one in the wrong. Him throwing me off the balcony because I didn't do a load of dishes was wrong. That's
Yeah.
not normal. That's not love. And
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if you experienced it, but once I started telling people like what was going on, all of a sudden I learned what other people had gone through too.
mhm,
It's like, oh, yeah, I experienced that too. Oh, yeah, well, this happened to me. And you're like, oh my gosh. And it's validating. I mean, you feel awful for the people that you love who go through this too, because you would never wish abuse on anyone if you've gone through it. But it's validating, because there were moments of shame for me. Absolutely. Like, I can't believe I let this happen. I can't believe this went on for so long. I can't believe my kids witnessed some of this stuff. But again, the shame is not on me. The shame is on him.
Yeah. So healing often isn't linear. Were there any unexpected moments or even setbacks that turned out to be essential to your growth and recovery?
Yeah, I mean, I have a diagnosis of PTSD because of what I went through, and that is something that is going to stay with me for the rest of my life. So I'm healthy and I'm well adjusted, but 3 nights ago I had a panic attack. And I couldn't even tell you what brought it on, but I can tell you the cause. It was because of what I've gone through. Um, there are moments, my husband, he's a saint, he truly is. But there are moments when like I have to tell him something that I know he might be upset about, and I have to like give myself a pep talk, like it's going to be okay, he's going to be fine, he's going to be supportive, like I know it's going to be fine. And my husband is nothing but supportive. And most of the time, like if I have to tell him, I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head naturally, but if I have to tell him something that I know is going to upset him, or he's just like, okay, it's fine, whatever, it's no big deal. And I'm like, oh my, wait, what? Like, you're not going to yell at me? We're not going to get in this like huge fight. Oh, okay. Oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. Okay. But and I think I'm always going to experience stuff like that, where something is going to take me back to those moments, and I'm going to have to work through them.
So you've turned on, first of all, yes, I agree. And I think those, side note, I think those are opportunities for growth as well. So, like I've also dealt with and, seen like, okay, this is not on the person or not on the things that are happening to me, like externally and to me, but then
Mhm.
how am I going to react and how am I going to like
Yeah.
feel the feelings that are being brought up? And then it's a chance to, um, I guess, take another step. You know what I mean? Like I'm always trying to
Mhm.
go up in life, I guess. That's the way of saying it. And this is another step that I can take and utilize this to
Mhm.
help me, um, I guess, heal,
Mhm.
that later in future, those things that once triggered me or brought me back don't have the same hold on me as
Yeah,
they.
absolutely. Like, I know, for example, anytime I had to do anything with my ex, like if I was invited to a bridal shower or, a birthday party, a happy hour, it was a huge deal. There was a huge fight. Um, you know, and it always snowballed. And I've learned I don't do it anymore, but in the beginning when I was with my husband and I was like, "Oh, so there's a retirement party this Saturday, but we have all the kids. Like, are you okay if I go?" And he's like, "Why are you asking me? Just go. Like, who cares? I'm here." And it's so like it's refreshing and also like it's off-putting too, but like you said, it's those moments of growth. It's like, oh, I don't I'm training my mind like I have a partner now. I don't need to like ask for permission and then brace myself for what might come.
Love that. So, you've turned an unimaginable experience into something so empowering, not just for yourself, but for others. What drives you today, and how do you stay grounded and energized in this mission?
What really drives me is the feedback that I get from readers with, telling me that my story helped them. It's what spurs me on. I mean, besides the fact, we talked about the writing process and that it's almost addictive at this point. It's really knowing that, my little story inspired somebody, help someone get through it.
So I love that your passion is turning this into a positive and creating a safe place for other people to read and recognize their own stories. Is this something that you ever imagined would be your path? How has this like transitioned your thoughts on yourself and your own life? I'm curious about that.
No. Nope. Never thought in a million years that I would be a writer. No. I mean, if you would have told me in college while I was struggling to write huge papers that I would someday enjoy the writing process, I would have told you you have lost your mind. Um, no, I mean, I think once I started figuring out that this was my creative output, and I mean for years I was so envious of people who like had their thing outside of their career. Like my mom is very crafty and artsy, and um I've always been envious of the fact that she finds such joy in like crafting, and I didn't have that. I never found my niche. And through someone once told me that when you go through actual change, it's painful. No like life changing change is ever like seamless. And I feel like I went through the pain for probably a multitude of reasons, but one of them is that I found a different path than I ever thought I would be on. I never thought domestic violence survivor, advocate, author. I didn't think any of those words would ever be in my vocabulary. But now that they are, I'm grateful for the way that I have been able to navigate this experience and turn it into something much more positive. And it also it's empowering to me because I feel like I have taken ownership of this experience and not given it to my ex. Like, this was an awful thing that I endured for many years. And now I get to take it back and turn it into a positive.
So, with your writing, what were you doing before? And have you turned into a full-time writer? So, have you quit your job?
I wish. The economy kind of sucks right now. um, no, I'm still a teacher. Um, and I have been a teacher for the past 13 years. And I mean, before, like, I didn't have like a creative type of output, and any spare energy that I had was really dedicated to surviving what I was living through, parenting two small children in an abusive relationship. And then when I was out of it, I discovered I had all this like excess energy like running through my body, and I didn't know what to do with. I was like, oh, yeah, I do need a creative output. Like, I do need to do something with all of this that's been stored up that was used in my fight or flight mode.
I think that is something that is not talked about enough either, is the amount of bandwidth that goes into surviving situations. And for me, I remember thinking, 'cause prior to my marriage, I made prom dresses, I cut people's hair, I did all of these things. I didn't paint yet. I didn't find that until after my brain injury. But um, I remember feeling like just a shell of myself because I didn't do anything besides take care of him, his needs, and try to make sure that my kids behaved so that he didn't blow up. And
Mhm.
that was every bit of creative energy that I possibly had.
Mhm.
And people don't realize, when you're living in survival, when you're living in fight or flight, you don't have the capacity to be creative.
Mhm.
And so I think that's important to acknowledge, is that there is life and there is creativity and there is more on the other side.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And I love that you have turned your pain into your purpose. And you're like the epitome of who we have on this show, right?
Oh, thank you.
So it's so beautiful to me. I'm curious though. So for someone who is in that situation, they're starting to recognize, hey, I think I'm being gaslit. Hey, I think this maybe isn't accurate. I don't know, I think maybe I'm in this
Mhm.
situation also. What would you tell them, or I don't know, what advice do you have for them?
I mean, I go back to the piece of advice I say all the time. Nobody ever regrets leaving. No one ever regrets leaving. Like, even if you're like, I think you gaslit me just now. Okay, well, a healthy relationship, you're never going to have to wonder if someone's gaslighting you. A healthy relationship, you're never going to have to be like, this feels like emotional abuse. Oh, I think this might, well, this kind of sounds familiar. No, those things do not help it happen in healthy relationships. So if you're feeling any angst or anything like that, no one ever regrets leaving. No one ever does.
You had said in the beginning that you guys co-parent.
Mhm.
So, how does that look like? Does that bring any fear or trauma resurface during those moments of exchange or moments of communication? And then, what does he think about you sharing what happened so publicly?
So I don't know how he feels. It has, knock on wood, not come up. I'm sure that wouldn't be like a great conversation to have. I don't know why it hasn't come up. I don't know if he actually knows. I mean, my kids know that I write books. They know what, I mean, they kind of know what the books are about. Um, so I don't know. But it's taken us a long time to get to where we are. I mean, we started off with, he had no visitation, then it was supervised visitation, then it was a couple hours here, a couple hours there. We slowly worked up. But in addition to slowly working up to the visitation schedule that we have now, we both did work that we needed to. And that is the key thing. It wasn't just me doing the work, he did it too. He since now has a mental health diagnosis and saw every professional that was recommended to him. We both saw I forget what she's called. It was like a co-parent coach when we first divorced. We had to see her like once every month or every 2 weeks, I forget. And we gradually worked up to where we are now, which is we don't have a protective order anymore. Our visitation schedule for him, it's almost 50-50. It's not quite that. Um, and we talk about the kids, and we're at soccer games and we're sitting next to each other. We're at dance recitals and we're sitting next to each other. And that is the end goal. The end goal is for the kids to see that this really crappy thing happened, but mom and dad did what they needed to do so that we could still have a healthy upbringing. But and like the part of me like hates to give him any type of credit because he is my abuser, but he did do the work that he needed to do to be a healthy father in their lives. And because I was able to do all the work that I did, I no longer am scared of this individual. I still will always have some sort of PTSD from what I went through. I will always have to deal with this. And that's not me being pessimistic. It's realistic. There is always going to be things that happen. But we are at a place that I am comfortable with him taking the kids. And also, my kids are older now and they'll tell me if something's going on. But in the very beginning, like I remember his first overnight visit with the kids, I don't think I slept at all. I was like a nervous wreck. But we are in a much better place than I ever thought we would ever get to.
That situation is so incredibly rare,
Mhm.
and I think it's amazing that you got there. I think that is a gift of hope to other people, that there is a possibility of things being worked through. My kids and I are on a trip right now back to Springfield, and we were talking in the car the other day, and I was like, does it make you sad that you don't see your dad anymore? And because of what the circumstances were, that has been both of their choice. It's not something
Mhm.
that I decided for them. The court
Mhm.
decided for one of them. The other decided on her own. But I think that's a very rare situation, but I think it's really beautiful.
It is. It's very rare. And um I knew early on because of where I live that he was going to get some sort of custody, regardless of what happened. And I remember being like, okay, well, I can either try and work this out and figure out how to co-parent, or I can continuously live in fear. And I was like, I'm gonna try and co-parent, and we're gonna see how it goes and try and work through the fear, because at the end of the day, like if he's was always going to get some sort of custody of the kids, like I needed it to be in a healthy form for them.
For listeners who may be quietly suffering or trying to support someone who is, what's one thing you want them to hear from you right now? Something they might need but don't yet know they need.
Nobody ever regrets leaving. And every county has resources, and they're good resources. So even if you feel completely alone, there are people that are paid to help victims of domestic violence.
That is very true. As someone who utilized those resources, I'm so incredibly thankful for the shelter and for the shelter that took my kids in while I was recovering. And um, there are ways to get out.
Mhm.
Um, and so I 100% agree. And there is no regret on the other side of leaving. So real quick, our podcast is named In the Black, and that is talking about how we can take a negative situation in our lives that put us in the red or put us in the negative, and turn it into something positive and powerful and impact the world around us. So, when you think about being in the black in your own life, what does that mean for you?
I mean, what I went through, that was 100% like I was in the black. just surviving a domestic violence situation and then getting out and um, in survival mode and trying to single parent and navigate the court system and do all the things and to where I am now. I've turned what happened to me into into my version of a positive. And I turned my I forget how you said it, Shannon. You said it so beautifully. It's like I turned my problem into a positive, or I forget how you
Pain
phrased
into
pain
purpose.
into purpose. That's it. That's
Yes.
100% what I did. I turned my pain into purpose. Um, yeah.
Painted black. Sorry. So where can our listeners find you?
My website is authораelee.com. You can also find me on Instagram at authораelee.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for hopping on. I know it's been a, what's it called? Um,
Journey.
it's I know we had you before and we had some mishaps. But yeah, it's been such a pleasure, chatting with you again. I hope we do your story justice.
Yes, we definitely appreciate you being on here and being patient as we work through all the little snafus that have happened. I'm so glad that we have gotten to know you a little bit through this process, and I can't wait to see where your stories go.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of In the Black. I hope today's story left you feeling inspired and reminded of the incredible strength that lies in each of us. Our guest today has taken her toughest challenges and transformed them into something beautiful, reminding us all that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way to find light in the world. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe and share In the Black with another woman who could use a little encouragement. Together, we're building a community of passion, purpose, and power. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and remember, your story matters. Your choices change things, and being your most authentic self can and will change the world around you.